Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another video on this channel, and today we're gonna go over a few a few eerie encounters. So sit back, relax, grab something to eat, and let's get into them already. I found a priest's diary from 1910. The contents of it haunt me to this day. Submitted by Philosophy Subboy. I've been working for a cleaning company for a couple of years now, and you see some weird stuff, but nothing compares to what happened at the old Fisher house. The memory of that day still crawls under my skin, and sometimes I wonder if I'll ever shake the feeling that something is watching me. Something dark. It started like any other job. Miss Fisher had passed away a few weeks ago, and her family wanted the place cleaned up so they could sell it. The house was big, a dusty old thing in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by thick woods that seemed to swallow up the sunlight. It was one of those places that immediately felt wrong the moment you stepped inside. The air was stale, thick, with the smell of rot and neglect. Every step I took on the creaky wooden floors echoed through the empty rooms, the only other sound being the wind outside rattling the broken windows. I started in the living room, wiping down furniture and sweeping the floor, trying to ignore the uneasy feeling that had settled in my gut. It was in one of the upstairs bedrooms where I found it, a small, leather-bound diary tucked under a loose floorboard. The diary looked ancient, the pages yellowed and brittle, the leather cracked from age. At first I didn't think much of it. Maybe it was just some old family keepsake, but when I opened it, something changed in the air around me. The first page was written in shaky, old-fashioned handwriting, dated July 12, 1910. It was signed by a priest named Father Augustine. His words were strange, like he was documenting something terrible that had happened. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. I write this to recount the horrors that befell the village of Saint Cuthbert, for my soul will never rest until the truth is known. I kept reading, feeling a shiver crawl up my spine. It began with the children, their laughter twisted into screams, and their eyes turned black as night. One by one, they fell to the curse, speaking in tongues, writhing like serpents upon the ground. At first we thought it was a sickness, but it was not of this world. It was the work of the devil himself. The room suddenly felt colder, and I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see someone standing behind me. But the house was empty. I was alone. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced myself to keep reading. I was called to the village when the first child died. Her body twisted in unnatural ways, her mouth open in a silent scream. The villagers whispered of demons, of something unholy that had come to our land. I did not believe them. I was a man of God. I was a fool. The first exorcism failed. Deus in adiutorium meum intende. The words of the ritual did nothing. The child laughed, a laugh that was not her own. She spoke to me in the voice of 1,000 serpents, mocking God, mocking my faith, and then she died, her body turning cold and stiff in my arms. I slammed the book shut, my heart racing. Something was wrong. I could feel it in the pit of my stomach, a creeping sense of dread that was getting harder to ignore. But I couldn't stop myself. I had to know more. I opened the diary again, flipping through pages. The priest's handwriting grew more frantic as the entries went on, his Latin prayers scattered throughout the text, as if he were desperately trying to cling to his faith. I have seen the face of evil. It wears the skin of the innocent, but its soul is black. The demon is no longer in one body. It moves through the village like a plague, corrupting, consuming. I tried to perform another exorcism tonight. It went wrong. So very wrong. Demones me circumdederunt. The demon was stronger than I could have imagined it. It spoke my name. It knew me. It taunted me, saying it had been waiting for me. I could feel its presence in the room, crawling beneath my skin, filling the air with its stench. Suddenly I heard a soft creak behind me. I jumped, the diary slipping from my hands and falling to the floor. I whipped around, my heart in my throat, but the room was still empty. The shadows seemed to shift, though, moving in ways that didn't feel right. It was like something was here with me. I picked up the diary again, my hands shaking. I wanted to stop reading, but something was pulling me in, like the words had a power of their own. I flipped to the last entry, dated October 31st, 1910. The village is lost. The demon has claimed them all. Men, women, children. It moves through them like a plague, leaving only death and madness in its wake. I hear its voice in my sleep now. It whispers to me, calls to me. I know what I must do. This is no longer a battle of faith. This is survival. I will confront it tonight. Fiat voluntas tua. If these are my last words, let it be known that I fought. Though I fear, I fight in vain. The last line was written in shaky, barely illegible script. I hear it now. It's coming for me. As soon as I finished reading, the wind up outside picked up, howling against the windows. The house groaned, the floorboards creaking as if something heavy was moving through the holes. My breath came in short, panicked bursts, and every instinct told me to run, but my legs wouldn't move. Then the whispers started. They were soft at first, like the wind slipping through cracks in the wall, but they grew louder, more insistent. Words I couldn't understand, spoken in a language that made my skin crawl. The same language that Father Augustine had written in. Demones ad te veniunt. The room seemed to darken, the shadows stretching across the walls, twisting and writhing like something alive. My heart pounded in my chest, and I backed towards the door, clutching the diary like it was my only lifeline. But then I saw it. In the corner of the room, barely visible in the dim light, a figure stood. It was tall, its skin pale and stretched tight over its bones, its eyes black and empty. It didn't move, but I could feel its gaze on me, cold and malevolent. My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment I was frozen in place, unable to look away from the thing in the corner. Then it smiled. The smile stretched impossibly wide, splitting its face in half, revealing rows of sharp, blackened teeth. And then it spoke, its voice in a low, guttural rasp that seemed to echo inside my head. Fiat voluntas tua. I bolted. I ran faster than I've ever run before, down the stairs, through the darkened halls, out the front door. I didn't stop until I was in my car, slamming the door behind me and fumbling for the keys. The house loomed in the rear view as I sped away, its dark windows staring after me like eyes. I never went back to the Fisher house. I quit my job the next day, moved to a new town, tried to forget everything I'd read in the diary. But I can't shake the feeling that something followed me. The whispers still come at night, creeping into the edges of my dreams, filling my mind with dark, ancient words I don't understand. And right now, as I'm writing this, I feel like I'm being watched, like there's something standing in a corner of the room, smiling. I hear it now. It's coming for me. They were all wrong. Red rooms exist. Submitted by Night 2 Exclusive. A red room is a dark web phenomenon in which a person or group of people livestream a torture or murder of an individual in a room in the dark web. This has been debunked and proven impossible, but they were all wrong. The time I'm writing this, one is being broadcasted. Maybe I'll go famous. I'll explain what I mean. I'm the cat of curiosity. If something gets me curious, I'll literally do my best to find that. The dark web is something that makes me curious the most, and on there, specifically a dark web chatting site, is where I met my online best friend, Jared, aka Red Moons. After 3 years of online talking, we finally met in person. To my surprise, he didn't murder me. He was exactly how he was online. We played games, drunk and smoked, and of course searched through the dark web, regular teenager bro things. While searching through the common things of the dark web, Jared goes, "Hey Alex, want to search for a red room?" Now, like I said, YouTubers debunked it, and at the time I believed them, so I said to Jared, "They don't exist." And not surprisingly, he responds saying, "Still, we already practically searched through everything. Wouldn't it be fun to even try to search for them? It would be like trying to find the One Piece. Also, we might even consider new stuff while trying to search it. It would be fun." I finally agreed, just to get it over with. After 2 hours of searching, I was about to tell him that I want to give up, and by noticing his facial expressions, I could infer that he wants to secretly give in to. That is, until we find the website condition of numerous links, and by each link is what the website is about. Most of the descriptions for the links are just hitmen or drugs or illegal stuff, and mostly traps set by the FBI, but there was one that stood out. The description by the link said, "Red paint." Jared clicks on it before I could even mention it. It was taking a while to load, and after a while a live chat was the first to load. Jared screams, "I told you!" Well, I'm in awe that we could find one. When it finished loading, my awe and Jared's pride gets vanquished by what we saw. It was two people with clown masks and black clothing inserting screwdrivers into a woman's chest. Jared goes to the bathroom to vomit while I could withstand some disgust as I saw things such as these before. Jared came back and almost vomited again, but in the midst of his gagging he tried to reach for the mouse to click off the livestream, but I slapped his hand away and immediately started typing. Fueled by rage, I type in words I'll regret. You dirty scumbags, why don't you livestream you doing this to yourself? After realizing what I said, I felt lightheaded, and my heart pumped harder than a shotgun. Jared looks at me like he wanted to kill me, and with the worries flooding through my head and the current situation I am writing this, I would honestly prefer he did. Jared says nothing but pack your things, we need to run. And we do exactly that. However, while packing, the message most likely just went through, or either the people hosting the Red Room just saw it because they just now said, stay tuned for the Alex livestream. I almost got a heart attack. Jared looks at me in a silly but serious face. We don't say anything at each other, instead awkward silence as we stare each other off. No more words exchanged. We just grabbed our bags and we booked the hell out of the house. Me and Jared hop in his car and he starts driving recklessly without informing where we're going. 20 minutes after driving, I get a notification from the cameras. I thought it was my parents, but it was a man wearing a horse mask and holding some sort of toolbox. He said, "When I see you," as he lifts up his toolbox. I get a mini heart attack. Jared gets out of the car and so do I. He just keeps running to the woods, so I just follow him. 6 minutes of blind running, I see a shed. I drag Jared to it and he sprints to it like the first one there wins. I never ran so fast in my life. I tripped and lost sight of Jared, but judging on how fast he was running, the person's will to survive him was most likely in the shed. I got back up and Usain bolted to the shed. However, when I got to the shed, Jared wasn't in sight. I was gonna yell out Jared when out of nowhere I hear a robotic voice saying, "Broadcasting in 5 seconds." I look in front of me and it's a computer with what appears to be a live chat. The robotic voice starts counting down. 5. I was processing what was happening. 4. I'm realizing what's happening. 3. Death is weighing on my mind. 2. I think of Jared and my family. Livestream on. This is it. The guy with the horse mask dances his way to the shed with the same toolbox. However, on the computer a voice can be heard saying, "Red Moon donated $50 to the livestream." Jared. "Betrayal sucks, doesn't it?" said the man. "But in this world one must do everything to survive, and you wouldn't be in this situation hearing me if it wasn't for your own stupidity." I grab a beady wooden bat and hit him with it. I ran for the car. I drove until I saw lights. I'm currently in a restaurant typing this, so you see, those YouTubers were wrong. They exist. The weirdest date of my life. Submitted by Marinero Ron. Trigger warning. I don't know what to do about my new girlfriend Karina. Something really bad has happened and I'm not even sure what it was exactly. Like, I haven't fully processed it yet. This is fucking crazy, but I don't know who else to talk to about it. Here it is. My girlfriend Karina asked me to attend her dad's execution with her and her mom. I swear I'm not making that up. She asked me 2 weeks ago if I would be willing to go with her and her mom to federal prison, just a few hours away, to see her incarcerated dad. She wanted me there as emotional support while the state carried out his execution for a crime of passion that he committed almost 2 decades ago. Like, honestly, what would you have said or done in this scenario? I'm absolutely in love with Karina, so I couldn't think of anything other than saying yes. I mean, I didn't even know that her dad was on death row. All I knew when Karina and I met was that her dad wasn't around when she grew up and that he was in prison. I just wanted to be a good boyfriend. The day of the execution, I was so nervous. I got up early and drove her to her house where she still lived with her mom. They were both dressed up in similar dresses. Her mom's dress was almost slightly inappropriate for such a solemn event. It was so weird. We got to the prison shortly before noon. I thought they were just going to let the family say goodbye or something before her dad's execution was carried out. Instead, when we arrived at the prison, they almost rushed us to some waiting area that had some other people that they said would be witnesses. There was a priest, I think a few journalists, and then some other family members, most of them I didn't recognize. At first, a stern-looking prison official did not want to let me accompany my girlfriend inside. He said it was only for approved attendees and immediate family, but unfortunately somehow my girlfriend convinced them to let me accompany them inside to witness everything. Never in my life had I seen anyone die before. I was so nervous about what I was about to witness that I thought I would be sick. Several times I could feel my mouth start to fill up with saliva like it did whenever I was about to throw up, but I was able to suppress the feeling. Eventually, a few prison officials escorted everyone in the waiting area to another dark room that had a large window looking into another room that had a medical-looking table with some straps attached to it. Karina's dad wasn't there yet. Karina's mom was quietly crying and my girlfriend was oddly quiet. I remember I couldn't believe how she and her mom looked alike in that moment. My girlfriend didn't look at me but just kept staring ahead in anticipation of when they would bring him out. Eventually an official came out and told us the prisoner would be brought out shortly. When her dad walked into the room, I saw the guy for the first time. He was tall and thin and looked oddly serene for someone that was about to die. He smiled at the guards, who all smiled back at him. He greeted each of them warmly and they seemed to respond kindly to him. Then he took a deep breath and smiled again. Then he looked into the window separating the execution room and the witness room. His eyes immediately went to Karina's mom, Karina, and me. His smile suddenly dropped at that point. Then he kind of winced slightly as his eyes stayed focused on mine. My heart was beating 1,000,000 miles a minute. And I think I even fucking waved slightly at him out of nervousness. I was so scared I was about to witness someone die that I didn't really know how to act. The priest, dressed all in black, was escorted into the room to speak to her dad while the guards begrudgingly strapped him to the table. Her dad seemed well liked by the prison staff. Finally, the warden asked whether her dad had any last words. Her dad then looked directly at me, directly into my eyes, and just stared at me, unblinking. It scared the hell out of me so much that I looked away and then to Karina, who ignored me and just continued to look into the room along with everybody else. I was gripping her hand tightly, but I didn't say anything. I turned my gaze back into the room with her dad, and he was still just fucking staring at me. I almost wanted to say, "What is it?" because how awkward it was, but he suddenly shook his head and said, "I don't think so." The warden then said, "Jim, are you absolutely sure that you don't have any last words? Your family is all here for you. Please, this is your last chance," he said sympathetically. He then shook his head and didn't say anything. The warden then read some kind of death sentence or certificate or something, then they started to inject him with some medication. I assumed that was the lethal injection they used. As soon as they did this, though, he seemed to have a change of heart and tried to jump up and speak. "Damn it, I'm so sorry. Boy, you need to run. She's just like her mother," he shouted before being pushed back down. "She's the same as her mother," he shouted. I looked over at Karina and she had this look of hatred or disgust watching this. Her mom's expression scared the shit out of me. Despite the tears on her cheeks, her mouth was slightly upturned in a sort of suppressed-looking smile or sneer. He tried to speak again within the first minute, but it didn't last long. It sounded like he once said "it suck" or just "suck, then you bye." He fell asleep, then seemed to struggle slightly with his breathing. Then he was pronounced dead. It took about 15 minutes in total. It was very uncomfortable to watch. Afterwards, I took Karina and her mom home. It was quiet the whole drive, but Karina did something odd when we made it back. She tried to initiate sex with me. Obviously, I couldn't do that, but the next morning she tried again. Every day since then, we've been having a lot of sex, but I feel really weird about it, despite how into Karina I am. Even in my dreams we're having sex. I wake up exhausted and not refreshed at all. At this point, I'm kind of worried about everything. I'm exhausted and weak, and I feel like I might have some kind of trauma from what I saw. Karina, though, couldn't be happier. Her mood and energy are super high. What does this mean? Should I talk to someone about this? Someone knocks at my door at 3:33 a.m. every night. I wish I didn't find out who it was. Submitted by Mint Jump. Knock, knock, knock. The knocking was barely loud enough to pull me out of my sleep. With my eyes drooping from tiredness, I pulled out my phone and checked the time. 3:33 a.m. Who the hell was at my door at 3 in the morning? With my back still hurting from the unpacking at this new apartment, I got up and slowly walked to my door. The white painted wooden door looked as if placed in the spotlight by the moonlight coming from the window. Swing. I swing open the door and no one. Whoever decided to break my sleep in the night was already gone. Maybe a drunk neighbor knocked on the wrong door before realizing their mistake. Who knows? I closed the door and retired back to my cozy sleep. You can blame me for not suspecting more. How could I have known the knocking would come back the next night? Knock, knock, knock. The knocking came back, breaking my sleep yet again. My eyes shut open. I checked my phone in frustration. 3:33 a.m. I'd had a terrible day, so naturally I stomped furiously out of the bedroom toward my door. This is my second day in this bloody place, and you can't even let me sleep? I swing open the door with a frown visible on my face. There was no one. Of course. I grunted, locked the door, and after mourning my interrupted sleep, decided to hit the bed again. The knocking continued for another 3 days, leaving me restless each night. It was the same thing at the same time each night. 3 knocks at 3:33 a.m. The constant commotion had me robbed of sleep, and my exhaustion festered into anger. I was going to find out who was doing this. So I sat on my sofa all night, waiting for 3:33 a.m. By the time the clock hit it, I was struggling to keep my eyes open with all the willpower I had. As soon as the clock hit 3:33, I jumped up, ran to the door with all the anger that had piled up through the nights, and swung open the door yet again, to an empty hallway. "Motherfucker locked out today," I whispered, and then I heard it. Knock, knock, knock. But this time, the knocking did not come from the main door. It came from behind me. My body grew cold, and my anger was replaced with a realization that made my spine shiver. Slowly and unwillingly, I turned around. The knocking had come from my bedroom door, which was shut close. Was someone in my bedroom? Was I in danger? What should I do? Should I call the cops? All the adrenaline pumped by my anger had dried out while I contemplated what to do. "Hello? Is anyone there?" I asked loudly. When no answer came back, I slowly went and turned the doorknob of my bedroom. As the door squeakily opened, it revealed my bedroom with someone in it. All my blood dried, and I stared at the person laying in my bed, unable to move a muscle, as if I were in a sleep paralysis. The person was me. I watched my mangled body, with its blood-red eyes and mouth that was frozen in its cream. And then the door flew shut in my face, knocking me back on the living room floor. My eyes swelled up and I curled into a little ball and cried for the remainder of the night, unable to process the fact that I just saw my very own dead body. I must have dozed off, because the next thing was me waking up the next night, with a dried mouth and tired eyes. I crawled my way to my phone in the living room and checked the time. I was a minute early. I waited for a minute until 3:33 a.m. hit. Knock, knock, knock. Even though I was curled up just in front of the main door, I couldn't muster the courage to open it. But then it flew open, showing me the empty hallway. I kept staring at the empty hallway, and after a while noticed that the roof had a person stuck to it. And then without warning, the figure dropped with a loud thud. I screamed and cried as I saw the person was my body. Laying on the floor, it looked at me with its dead eyes that bled tears of blood. "Please stop," I cried. It did not stop though. Every night, I pass out from exhaustion after crying, only to wake up moments before the inevitable knock. I don't eat or drink anymore. What's the point? The knocks have shown me so many ways that I can die, each one worse than the last. I can't take this anymore. I want to escape, but the doors won't let me. I'm writing this at 3:30 a.m. Only 3 minutes until the knocking shows another death of me. I just wish this time it killed me for real, because I'm scared. I'm scared that this is going to continue forever. So yeah guys, hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, leave a like, maybe even subscribe to show your support. And by the way, if you have an interesting story like this, make sure to leave it down in the comments, and if it's interesting enough, I'll even feature it in a future video. So have a good one. Peace.